Okay, everybody. I want to share a little something with you today. And if you, this is one of the spots that I normally would take photographs. It's really scenic and it's nice when you consider the fact that you have all of this lush greenery around here, and also you have, of course, this ark with the pillows, and it's some nice benches. On a day like today, the weather is perfect after all the rain, and it's really a nice spot for some awesome photos. Because of the rain, you can see the grass is lush and green, very picturesque, if we want to call it that. But what stands out to me most about this location, it is the memorial for the late Edward St. George. And whenever I come up here, I always read. I know this by heart. Okay? Remember, man, as you pass by, as you now are, so once was I. As I am now, so must you be. Remember, man, eternity. It's a thought that most of us should consider as we, go about our daily routine. And I want to turn around so you can see exactly where this is. This is the public park, which is Tino Beach, and you can see the ocean over there, and it's just a beautiful sight. Now, I decided to do this particular recording here because I want to do a series, and when I say I want to do a series, I want to communicate with some of my viewers and persons who would follow me from time to time on some of my inspirational talks. For many of you who know, I am a Justice of the Peace here in Freeport, but before I was a JP, or a Justice of the Peace, or notary, I actually was in a number of fields, but most notably the one that I want to talk about today is the photography field and the videography field. My company's name is Simply the Best Media, and my catchphrase or slogan at the bottom is, when your image matters, choose Simply the Best. And why I say when your image matters? If your imaging is important to you, then you can choose this. For many years, we pride ourselves, me and my team, on providing simply the best service and offering a professional service here in Grand Bahama that stems all over the Bahamas. And what I want to talk to you today about is funerals. And when you talk about funerals, let's start with, why should we entertain recording a funeral, or why should we seek to document a funeral? Before we get into why should we do that, I want to show you all something, and I will start with my own family, because I've asked a number of my clients. I've asked one of my clients specifically if I can use their funeral program as I discuss the importance of documenting, or why should you be interested in documenting a funeral service. You learn a lot at funerals, and you learn a lot especially after funerals. What do I mean by that? I will show you a picture of my biological mother and her funeral program, and then you'll get an idea of where I'm coming from. Here is my biological mother, right? And her funeral program. And we were separated for a number of years before I actually got to know who she was, right? And, as I didn't have an opportunity to go through this funeral program for a number of years after. She definitely was young, 1950 to 2011. And as I started to read through this program, right, I realized some stuff that I really didn't pick up on. And I didn't pick up this program for many, many years after the funeral. And during the funeral, I was in a zone, just questioning a lot of things that happened throughout my lifetime. And for whatever reason it is, some things did not come to light. Didn't come to light until I actually took time to go through this program. And I was like, I learned a lot, right? Learned some history about her life. I learned specifically that she had 2 children by the age of 19. By the time she was 19, she had already had 2 children, and only 2 of us she had at that time, and she didn't have any more after that. But until I actually picked this program up years later, and I read through, right, the program, I looked at date of birth, I started doing some mere calculations, and it answered a whole lot for me. It really answered a lot for me. And what that tells me is when we don't document, right, properly, the loved ones that we leave behind stay guessing, stay trying to figure out what is happening or what had happened or how did they come, how did we get here, where did we come from, what was some of the reasonings behind things that occurred in our lifetime. And I thought it was profound. So I say that to say, documenting a funeral is very, very important, not necessarily for the ones who are passed, but for the ones who remain. You would always hear it. You would always hear preachers. I do a lot of funerals. I did a whole lot of funerals with the recording, and also now streaming has become very popular. But the pastors would always say, I'm not preaching to the dead, I'm preaching to the living. And I understand fully why he would say that, because according to scriptures, the dead knows nothing. But I'm saying to those of us who would put recording the funeral service on the back burner, I want to suggest to you that you reconsider that. And the reason why you reconsider it is it's not really for you. It's really for the ones that you leave behind. Because I don't know what it is, but children always try to find out what their history is like. Normally when they're children, they don't, they're busy living their lives and they don't know exactly what it is that they want out of life. But I guarantee you, the minute they get to that mature stage where they're in their late 20s, early 30s, and start to have children, a lot of questions come to their mind, about where they came from, who are their people, and why. Now, this is one of the most elaborate programs that I've seen in my time as far as recording funerals. And this funeral program is from my aunt, Miss Linda Gertrude Bow, my Uncle Athma's wife. And I want you to see, the funeral program actually is a commemorative. If you look at it, the way that it's laid out, it is very, very, very nice. When you look through it, you would have a good insight on the history of my aunt. And when you get into reading, this is a perfect way to document the life, right, of a mother, a wife, an educator, a mentor, and a Christian. Okay? And you can't really, I would say, get this kind of information easily, per se. You could see a lot of time went into it. But when you look, it has a history. Okay, it has a history, and it have all of the relatives. So if you want to follow your family tree, you're able to follow your family tree, and it's very, you get so much information from a program that was put together, well put together. Okay, the order of service will tell you who all participated in the service, but for me, this is like a commemorative book. Okay, full color. It's full size, and if you notice, it's actually very much like a brochure type size, because this is the regular letter size program in black and white, my biological mother. And of course, this one really documents the history of my aunt. Okay, very much so. And I am positive, for me, I'm just a nephew, but I'm positive the grandchildren and everybody else is appreciative of what was done here. Okay, and of course, the service was recorded. So what happens now with the service being recorded, her legacy and the history is properly documented, and is documented with photographs. And this is why I like photography so much, because you actually get to see, you actually get to see the images of the persons, and you could actually paint a picture of her lifestyle based on what was presented. Okay, now this wonderful program was printed by Just Print. Okay, Just Print Bahamas. And I thought it was really well thought out, and it was done real nicely. And what a way to commemorate the life, right, and the legacy of an awesome lady. Now, to some, this type of thing is not for everyone, but I think when you really consider it, if you are considering, your children, and if you get to understand the value that is placed on them knowing their bloodline, the history of their bloodline, and they get to understand more about their life than you can imagine. And I'm thinking it is something that we should consider. Now, the reason why I made this video is because a lot of times when I do funerals, I came out of the life insurance business, right? And I've seen many death certificates, and I've spoken with many families before, during, and after, and a lot of them have regrets. And one of the regrets that I know that stands out most is after the funeral service, they would have preferred to have had certain things according to the funeral done differently. No matter how much they planned, they would have wanted to do things differently. And most of them can't remember a lot of times what actually took place. So if they didn't have an opportunity to record it, they don't remember the tributes, the as I knew him or her, or anything like that. And that is the value in having it recorded. If you are really stretched budget-wise and you don't have any funds to have a professional document your service, it is still good for you. Things are so easy nowadays. If you get your cell phone, just like I'm doing here, and you record it, you would still have some documentation, okay, for your children and your children's children, and it would be around for many years, and I'm sure they will thank you immensely for it, because it's nothing like hearing from, like they say, the horse's mouth. Most people would, they would not stop to take a minute to tell you how much they appreciate you while you are alive. I don't know why it is, we get so busy, we don't have an opportunity to do that. But nevertheless, we would do it out of service. So that that is the reason why I am thinking to ensure that I do the best that I can to at least plant the seed for you to understand the value in documenting your family's history. Okay? We are human beings first. All of the working, all of the hoving and heaving, and the amount of funds that we push for each week that goes to a lot of the institutions, whether it's, your mortgage company or maybe somebody, your car note, the bank, whatever it is, right? If you would consider the importance of being a human first and understanding the value of family and where you came from and what the ideals of your family is all about, you may find that you would have your offspring would have a better life. So with that being said, anyone who is interested can just DM me or personal message me, however you want to call it, if you're interested in having me help you document your event, your funeral service, or even if leading up to you have someone who is not doing well and you basically want a history of your family, okay? Because at the end of the day, we have to always remember man, okay? Remember man, and when we say man, that's mankind, which stands for man and woman. And remember man as you pass by, because as you are now, so once was I. As I am now, so must you be. Remember man, eternity. We have to remember man, and the one sure way of remembering is to document, to make sure that the memory stays in place, stays alive. And I thank you for your indulgence as you listen to my recording today. Consider it. Consider it. Whatever country you're in, whatever town, consider documenting your family history and your relatives. It serves a lot of purposes, and I'm sure the person who would really, really appreciate it would be your children or your children's children. So with that being said, God bless and thank you for tuning in. And feel free to share this video. You can also subscribe to my channel as I try to update it as often as I can with words of encouragement. Yeah, you'll get a little insight on how God has blessed me to think and to share. God bless.